So today I want to talk about faith or trust. Faith in the practice, faith in the teachings. Last week I talked about how we make a fundamental shift from looking for happiness in, shiny objects, you could say, or external things or internal states. And rather than that, looking inside and connecting with our true nature. So acknowledging the inherent peace and happiness that's always and already within us. And this shift, it's not a conceptual shift. It's a deep transformational, you could say, practice. And the practice really requires faith, a willingness to explore the teachings, explore these practices firsthand. Because as the Buddha said, and I say often as well, is, don't believe statements about truth. Simply take the practices and investigate for yourself to see if it's true in your direct experience. So, I keep pointing you towards touching into your true nature or your essential self, your essential nature that's behind and the background of all the content of your experience. So the only way you can know that is by glimpsing it or tasting it for yourself in your direct experience. This requires a real consistent and dedicated practice, right? It's not something that, you can sit here once a week and I can kind of do the finger pointing at the moon, pointing at your deepest nature, and that's going to do it. We're so conditioned to identify with so many other things that it's challenging to peel all that away and connect at that much deeper level. We're so identified for the most part with, I won't say you, but people in general are very identified with the bodies, their thoughts, the emotions that are arising, all that sensory experience that we have. We take it all very seriously and we identify with it. And even if you've let that go and you've seen that that's not who you are, you're likely, or many people are likely identified with that which is perceiving all those experiences, right? The witness. So that's kind of, I always say, when you let go of the ego, people often then identify with the perceiver or the witness. So that takes more dedicated practice and, a consistent looking and seeing. Well, am I the perceiver? Okay, if I'm not my thoughts, I've seen that. I have actually no control over my thoughts. So I've seen that over and over, that thoughts just come and go and emotions come and go. The body changes on its own. I really have no control over what it's doing. But I'm noticing this. I'm aware of all this. So then we identify with that perceiver, that witness. So we have to have faith then that the practice will help us see that we're not that either. Can you see that you're not the perceiver in your direct experience? Anytime you say, "Oh, there's a perceiver," there I can see perception, I can see a perceiver. That is just another perception. There can't be a perceiver without a perception of the perceiver. I hope that's not too mind-blowing, but if you even to think about that at the rational level, there's no perceiver unless there's a perception present of that perceiver. And if that's where you're at in your practice, that takes tremendous faith and trust to see beyond that. So we're not in this practice. We're not agreeing with doctrines and beliefs and so on. We're just directly we're seeing it in our experience, and this is so crucial. This notion of investigating our direct experience and seeing for ourselves what's true is so fundamental to these teachings and to touching into our true nature. It's not something that we just believe in. So when I say faith, I'm not asking you to have faith in the doctrines or faith in the things that I say, faith in beliefs. What I'm inviting you, what faith is in this sense, is a faith that by investigating my experience, truth will reveal itself. There's a faith in the practice. We trust in the practice, and we practice trust. Trusting the teachings to guide us forward to see our true nature. So it instills a sense of confidence. It dispels doubt. Right? Doubt is one of the 5 hindrances. The 5th of the 5 hindrances. So it can be a real impediment to our practice. So it's very important, and it's not something that we often talk about. You don't often hear, in fact, I couldn't find talks that use the word faith. I think we stay away from it because it has a connotation as well. You have faith in some kind of religious doctrine, and people are often wanting to get away from that. This kind of maybe a blind faith. Just believe and you'll be free. Just believe it. You don't have to investigate or know it firsthand. You just believe it and you'll be free. So it often can be referring to that kind of spiritual concept or an authority figure without questioning or requiring evidence. So it's, in some spiritual circles, blind faith is encouraged as a way to kind of surrender to a higher power. So the way I'm speaking about it is quite different. Faith, as I'm speaking about it, only arises when we see in our direct experience that the teachings prove true. So then we can have faith that in further pursuing the teachings and in practicing that we'll discover more, that the wisdom will deepen. So faith emerges from the dedicated practice, and practice naturally builds arises from faith. So you can see how it's a reciprocal relationship. As I said, we trust and practice and trust. And it doesn't matter whether you adhere to any specific Zen or Vajrayana or Theravada school or Christian mysticism or Sufism, Taoism. It's about embodying your true nature, which is ever present in every moment. And so this is what we're endeavoring to see. It's in everybody and in every place. Right now, in this moment, in this very body, in this very place. So we have trust in the teachings. As practitioners, we place trust in the wisdom and guidance offered on this spiritual path. So the teachings provide us with that stable foundation for our spiritual practice and understanding. So we also trust in the practice. So when we have faith in the teachings, we then trust in the transformative power of the practice itself. So we trust that by diligently and consistently engaging in the practices that will undergo inner transformations and gain deeper insights into the nature of reality and the nature of our own minds. And we also trust in ourselves. And this can be challenging because we tend to, again, seek validation externally. So this is trusting in ourselves. It's a true self-confidence that emerges when we have faith in the teachings and we have faith in the practices. And so we have faith in our capacity to do the practices and to embody them. Faith that we have the inherent wisdom within us, the potential for awakening within us. Yeah. It's a personal exploration. So the faith that builds our practices is so key. There's that famous quote, I keep saying, the Buddha said, go look for yourself, don't believe anything I say. And one of his actual quotes, because that's kind of a paraphrasing quote, one of the quotes is, O practitioners, just as a goldsmith tests gold by rubbing, burning, and cutting before buying it, so too you should examine my words before accepting them, and not just out of respect for me. That's quite a profound statement from a spiritual teacher. You should examine my words. It's the way that a goldsmith will test the gold before they buy the gold. Examine the words before accepting them, not just out of respect. So it's that importance of critical inquiry and direct experience that we really, it's so important. And that's why the dedication, faith and dedication to practice is so essential. I get a lot of people watching the videos that don't come to the group, but watch them outside the group on YouTube. And I get emails. People say, well, what's the quickest way to spiritual awakening? I'll get that question quite often, maybe once every couple of weeks. And what's the fast track to enlightenment? I think I made the mistake of having that as a title on a video. So people watch the video and I didn't really get a fast track, but what is the, and I say, consistent and dedicated practice is the kind of reply. Well, it doesn't sound very fast, does it? It sounds like it's kind of the slow cook approach to seeing truth, but that's what it is. I mean, I guess there might be people that have spontaneous knowing arise, but I think for most of us, it's a slower it's a gradual process of this dedicated and continuous practice based on faith in the teachings, faith in the practice, and faith in ourselves. And people don't always want to hear that. And when I say, consistent and dedicated practice, what I'm really probably referring to, people then might ask, well, what's the practice? do I have to meditate every day? That's often what we think. You might be thinking that I'm actually saying, right? That you committed and dedicated practice is meditating on a regular basis for, I don't know, say between 30 and 60 minutes, somewhere in there. And that's true. That is a really helpful laboratory for investigation, sitting quietly. But that's not going to do it. It goes beyond a meditation practice. It requires us to take that investigation into our everyday moments so that we can see, or constantly looking to see what's true, because these truths aren't only true in a meditation posture, they're true every moment of every day, every place. So I really think that that's what that kind of remembering to practice is really the level of dedication that kind of makes it a possibility in this lifetime. Zen, they talk about faith a fair bit. The Rinzai tradition emphasizes the critical role of faith. That with insufficient faith, it leads us to continued confusion and being swayed by external influences, which hinders our practice and hinders our seeing truth. So that this self-confidence is very crucial. Otherwise, we'll constantly be seeking external validation as opposed to having faith in what we're practicing. All right, we often wonder, right, as we're going along this path, it sounds so simple. Am I doing this right? Right? Is this really something that I can see myself? Because it seems so challenging. And so we can get led onto other, can get led astray, you could say, off the path, because it's relatively simple. We're simply acknowledging what's already present within us. So when we can let go how have I put it in the past? When we stop cherishing our illusions, and we let go of our attachments or our identifications. So those are the kind of first steps, is this letting go of our egoic attachments and our identifications. And when that layer kind of falls away, there's a real possibility to recognizing, acknowledging that which has been overlooked for so long. Yeah. So it's not the illusory separate self that finds anything. It's seeing that we believe in this illusory self that's clouding over our true nature. So true self-confidence, according to Rinzai, involves letting go of these false beliefs and illusions, particularly this idea of a separate self. And it requires really recognizing the ways in which we obstruct our inherent Buddha nature, our true nature, by investing energy in things that reinforce the illusion of an ego. Yeah, so the faith that these teachings will lead us to the realization of our true nature. The faith that true nature, Buddha nature, is not some distant, elusive thing, but it's inherent in every being, in everything, in every moment. So it's about having faith that we can recognize this. We can be liberated from the confines of our egoic reality. I always wondered why the Buddha put the doubt as one of the 5 hindrances, because the other 4 hindrances are all things like desire and aversion, and so restlessness is another one, and sleepiness. So those ones you kind of go, yeah, those I see those in meditation, right? I see leaning into things that are pleasant, leaning away from things that are unpleasant, or sometimes, it's sit down, it's just monkey mind, and that's, can maybe even worse than monkey mind. It could be like a whole troop of drunk monkeys, just, jumping all over the place. That's restlessness. And other times you just fall asleep. You just sleepiness, right? It translates as sloth and torpor in the Buddha's teachings. If you've ever seen a sloth, it's a very apt word. They're in Costa Rica, these animals that barely move. I think they burn like 2 calories a day just because they just sit there and hardly move. So this kind of sleepiness, and then he added this 5th one, doubt, as one of the 5 fundamental hindrances to meditation. So it's so very key and not really talked about a whole lot. And I've been told, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't know that it's true in my experience, but I've been told that doubt is the last one to go. For me, restlessness was the last one to go, but I did hear at one point that doubt was the last one to go. But I've had fairly firm faith in the teachings. I think maybe because I came to these teachings after trying so many other teachings, I kind of thought it was easier for me to develop a real faith and trust in this path, that I was going to stay on the path rather than getting off it and trying a different one. But that faith, that overcoming the doubt that arises is so fundamental and so key, so that we have the capacity to practice throughout the day. Oops, somebody just came on. So we have the capacity to practice. We don't strive for things outside ourselves. We turn inward and we look. We recognize the beingness within us. Again and again, continuously. We acknowledge our inherent beingness that's always there. And we can do this in each moment, every moment. We can see that everything we seek is already within us, waiting to be recognized and known. It's right there. And when you touch it, really dwell in that. Sometimes we touch into it and we kind of skip over it. But those moments when everything just seems peaceful and still, just look and see in those moments. Just look, just as the Zen masters, just take a backward step and look. What's there? Because that's the easiest place from which to recognize it. It's always there, even when there's drunk monkeys jumping around. It's still there, but it can be harder to see because of all the commotion, right? Lots of commotion. It's hard to see something that's so subtle and intangible, really, right? It's intangible as well. I think that's the other reason why it's challenging. We're used to tangible things. And in our modern society, we're very much in more of a materialist mindset. So it's things that we can touch and feel, and the intangible is more challenging. But in those moments of what I call moments of awe, we can touch into it. Moments in nature, birth of a child or grandchild, just those moments of silence. Sometimes you're just walking down the street. Have you ever had that? You're just walking down the street and all of a sudden there's just a deep peace comes over you. And everything you look at seems perfect and happy and at peace. Even if there's some chaos, it's still perfect and happy in it. You just have that sense. That's the time to sense into it. And I think sensing into it in those moments is more instructive than meditating. So our whole life becomes the laboratory, not just the 30 to 60 minutes in the morning or whenever you meditate. We're fully present with our lives as they unfold. And when we do that, we can also see the ways that the ego perpetuates itself and obscures our inherent peace and happiness. We can really start to see that through our moment-to-moment investigation. It's all grounded in observation. So, I invite you to, sometimes we, rather than practicing, we'll want to listen to a Dharma talk or read a book, or I invite you to see that for what it is. It's a distraction from what really has bite to it, which is our looking within and investigating, observing